Think of a world where there are no robots, no artificial intelligence or modern technology, but people are still wealthy and work diligently to become a billionaire. People throughout the centuries have shaped the surroundings that we live in today. Let's dig deep, from dusty deserts to modern skyscrapers and luxury apartments. Who has been the richest person on Earth? Has this thought ever brushed your mind? But what if I told you that the richest person in history was not the one with the biggest palaces like emperors, but what about the one whose riches lay in endless cattle and in gold and salt beyond measure? Wealth has always been a fetish for all. Let's dig deep into this golden chasm of wealth, fame, and riches. Let's demystify this mystery and give your curious cravings some jam. The first person in the list is Elon Musk. The first person with a hefty amount of wealth in bank accounts that comes to mind is none other than Mr. Elon Musk. Elon Musk's net worth would accommodate an average person's salary only if he worked for an average of 8 million years. This estimate is approximately 30 times longer than the duration of our existence. Interesting, right? But what if I tell you he is not the richest person on Earth? Isn't it astonishing that he would stand as a broke person in front of the wealthiest man ever? The actual video begins. Let's begin the quest of finding the richest person then. Let's go back in time to the 80s Pablo Escobar. The streets of Colombia were walked over by Pablo Escobar, a billionaire of his time. He alone accounted for 80% of the world's motivation for the supplement industry. Interesting, isn't it? The person who was making $420 million a week. The most interesting fact about Pablo was that unlike other wealthy people, his money was not stuck in stocks, but rather in a pile of rubber bands. Captivating piece of information, right? But because of this pile, his wealth was significantly damaged. His net worth cost him to lose around $2 billion. Now let me take you back to history in 1945, the year of distraught, the year when World War II begins. Millions of soldiers are marching towards home, but they are light-hearted as they are returning to a blue-collar economy. The American dream is still thriving. Joseph Stalin. The third wealthiest person we are going to discuss now is Joseph Stalin, the communist ruler of the Soviet Union. His darkest secret was that he already had so much money that he was uninterested in every single penny that he had on his grimy, neglected shelves. If we dig deeper into his pockets, his monthly pay would be around $30,000. The enigmatic reason behind history including him in the list of wealthy people is simply because he despised money and yet controlled an entire state. His dominance can be remembered by the fact that when he died, no one dared to call the doctor for up to 12 hours. So while being broke on paper, he actually controlled a political economy, and its worth in today's time would be $10 trillion. So now let's move on to the next challenger to the throne, the infamous Mr. Adolf Hitler. In the year 1907, a little boy went to Vienna to pursue his dream of becoming a famous artist, but things weren't working in his favor as he got rejected from his dream school. Imagine going from selling small postcards to fighting in World War II. He was even sent to jail as a warning for 9 months before his actual vicious personality came out. Signs are always given before time, but a vigilant watcher must keep an eye open always. His famous book, Mein Kampf, was written in the pits of an isolated dungeon. In 1925, the popularity of his book grew as the state of Germany lost its grandeur. The source of earning his money was copywriting his own image, which allowed him to collect money in the form of a royalty on every postage stamp. He further went on to copywriting his own speeches and collected the money by printing press. This second income made him a millionaire. His Mein Kampf sold around 10 million copies, but according to a later estimate, his book was outsold 3-1 by Anne Frank. Let's move on to his last powerhouse side hustle, collecting $5 billion in donations from his supporters. Still, his real riches did not solely accumulate in his pennies and currency notes. Rather, it was the military might that he gathered, governing the whole of Europe. Hitler's total resources account for around $3 trillion in today's world. Let's move on to our next runner-up, Mr. Henry Ford. His theory was that if you pay them more and let them sleep, he made a reformist decision, one that was undemanded, and left a trailblazer in history. In 1914, he doubled the wages from $2.50 to $5 per day. He then proceeded to cut the working days from 6 to 5 per week. After looking after his workers, labouring in the butchering factory and cold storing different meat packages, he came up with a new idea to reduce the production time of the well-known Ford Model T. He assembled his workers in a line, just like meatpacking plants, which dropped the production time to an astonishing 90 minutes from 120 minutes. Prices saw a huge drop, slipping from $8.50 to $2.90, and you would never believe that the Model T was the best-selling car in history for 50 years. After Ford made automobiles accessible to the masses, people began driving everywhere. The city-to-city commute only began after his brilliant innovation of Modi T, and thus the modern work schedule sprang up in the dictionary. It would not be wrong to say that he is the inventor of the middle-class family. Although his total net worth was $200 billion, the influence he had in his time was even more massive. Now let's move back to the late 1800s. 3 billionaires. Massive capitalism is revolving around the world. The telegraph, telephone, and light bulb are currently in the stage loop of invention. Children are working on the ground. Pollution and smog cover up dust up the whole street. Yes, you are right to think that regulation does not exist. The 3 OG heroes of this era were: 1. Cornelius Vanderbilt. He was a business giant of the 19th century, born in the USA. His veiled wonder was that he died with more money than the US Treasury. 2. The next in line is Andrew Carnegie, born in Scotland in 1835. He was the owner of a steel production and a large manufacturing firm, who later dedicated his whole life to philanthropy. And the fun fact here is that this was a time before charity tax advantages. 3. But wait for the last one that will blow your mind. Mr. John D. Rockefeller. In 1870, Rockefeller founded Standard Oil. He quickly took advantage of his companions through innovation, and by the 1880s, he controlled 90% of America's oil refining. But the richest of the three was John D. Rockefeller. His empire fell in 1911 when the US Supreme Court ordered his refinery to be an illegal monopoly, and he ended up on the streets as a beggar crying for each penny. Jokes apart, his legacy was subdivided into 34 companies, and he had been rewarded with major shares and rights of ownership in all of his companies. At his peak in 1913, he was worth 2% of the USD GDP. Mayer Amschel Rothschild. Life expectancy is merely 30 years. America doesn't exist on the world's map. Houses slept under a blanket of darkness. In a small Jewish family setting, Mayer Amschel Rothschild is born, a hard-working lad making his fortune from being a rare coin dealer to a successful banker. Destiny blessed him with 5 sons. In the early 1800s, he launched a new triumph. He sent his 5 sons to 5 key financial hubs of Europe. All his sons performed their duties well. Soon the invention of the telephone came into existence, and the Rothschilds laid the cornerstone of the first ever international banking network. He invested in the Suez Canal and provided loans and financial schemes to countries. But there was one serious problem with his nature. His roots of belonging to a Jewish family were never adopted. He did not invest in gold or save money, but rather invested in stocks, bonds, and debts to secure his belongings, as Jews had no land of their own. Another theory suggests that he distributed his wealth to his relatives and cousins, so no one would ever know his net worth. According to a report, his estimated net worth today is around $500 trillion. The only heir of his family that is still available on Facebook is Jeff Rothschild. His worth today is nearly $3.2 billion, and he even made it to the Forbes Richest People list. Now, let's dig into the late 1500s. The next rival in the list is Jacob Fugger, born into a wealthy German family. He inherits his family's business and switches from traditional merchant trading to banking, and soon expands his wealth by providing loans from mere business projects to elections all the way to wars. Soon he granted funds as loans to Emperor Charles V, but he couldn't repay the debt in time, and Fugger sent him history's most notable furious letter. The fact cannot be denied that he had more dominance over his state than the kings. churches couldn't repay their loans and started selling heaven passes that ignited the religious revolution. He made the first ever social housing complex. 150 people still reside in these apartments at the cost of $1 a year. Jacob owned around 2% of Europe's turn the clock back to the year GDP, worth around $400 billion today. Mansa Musa. Now, let's travel further back into history. Turn the clock back to the year 1324. Viewers, presenting to you the richest man ever found in history, Mansa Musa. Imagine an empire full of gold, and you being the king, the sole owner of all the wealth of the Mali Empire. Mansa went on an expedition to Africa and ultimately became the emperor of the Mali Empire. The whole land was rich in salt and gold. During his pilgrimage to Mecca, he gave away so much gold to all the corresponding states on the way that it made the local economies crash. He, however, had to borrow some gold back to stabilize the economy, but paid all the debt at once, which crashed the economy again. Wherever he journeyed, the traces of gold started emerging on the mass. This could be seen as his ultimate flash of wealth. No one to date is able to count his network today, yet he still rules as a gold king. It is believed that he handled the gold supply of half of the regions of the earth. According to a report, his net worth today would roughly amount to $400 billion, but could be much higher, as everything came out of derivative evidence. I know the list just made Elon Musk appear broke. If we only compare, John D. Rockefeller's worth was around 2% of the USD, while Elon Musk's wealth today stands at 1.4% of the US GDP. But the catch here is that the US economy today is 22 times larger than it was in 1913. Elon was born in 1971 in South Africa and later relocated to Canada and eventually to the financial giant of the world, the United States of America. He founded Zip2 and X.com, later renamed as PayPal. He is the owner of renowned companies such as Tesla, Inc., SpaceX, and Neuralink. The best part is that his wealth is not unknown and is well documented. According to a recent report by Forbes, his net worth stands at approximately $457.5 billion in early September 2025. Bloomberg valued his wealth at $361 to $385 billion in mid-2025. His groundbreaking vision can be greatly directed towards investing in tech startups, as the future is predicted to be based on technology and robotics, and he was successful in cracking the flash of intuition and thought ahead of his time. So the next billionaire can be you too, just invest in the right opportunities. What do you think about this video? Is Elon the ultimate king, or of the ancient rich people who would be alive in today's tech world? Would they be making more money alone now? Subscribe for more historical facts, comparisons, and well-researched and detailed videos. Thank you for watching.